and walls to make the situation. You know, right?
The evidence is not there.
Absolutely not.
The evidence is not there.
Look at here.
It's like expecting a military band to play like Charlie Parker. It ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen.
At Real Alex Jones, where I surmise the fact that RFK Jr. saw his father murdered when he was the Attorney General, saw his uncle, the president, murdered, and that he saw them attempt to kill Trump, and that he knows that the same Secret Service that's been trying to get him killed has not given him any Secret Service protection, and that I believe that would...
Because we draw votes from Trump, or we draw somehow more votes from Trump, or we walk away right now and join forces with Donald Trump, and you know, we walk away from that and we explain to our base why we're making this decision.
So why is a video that's about Cornel West and RFK, why in the world is Candace Owens in the B-roll footage? Well, the reason why she's in the B-roll footage is because I'm about to tell you what I think could, and I'm saying could happen, as a result of all the third parties that come out of this election. Now, if you've been paying attention to her, the person that, by the way, is the subject of the video that's being released at 12 o'clock today, then you would know exactly where she is politically. However, political alliances constantly shift and they constantly change. You guys saw at the very beginning, you saw Cornel West, you guys also saw Nicole Shanahan, RFK's VP, and also one more thing too. You also notice that a lot of these third-party candidates that nobody talks about, of course, one of them being Jill Stein, they've all decided to join at the hip for protesting the country of Israel or protesting the Democratic Party and how it is that the Israel-Gaza, Israel-Hamas war started on their watch. And, of course, these right here are photos and videos of what has been going on in Chicago the past few days at the Democratic National Convention. Now, day two was a little bit calmer, not a whole lot to report, but this right here was day one. You guys are seeing the B-roll footage, and you're probably asking yourself a question. Will these people still line up, and will they still support the Democratic Party, which constantly panders to them? I'm here to tell you guys right now that this right here is one of the main reasons why it is that I do not trust the polls, because at the end of the day, it's voter turnout that wins elections, not polls. Now, before we talk about the possibility of these movements at one point in time ever, like, how do I say, forming an alliance at some point in time, which, by the way, would fall apart on its face because they all differ ideologically, but we'll talk about that a little bit more towards the second half of the video. I want you guys to go ahead, and if you can, go ahead and go to your cell phones, go ahead and cut on your notifications for this channel here, so that way YouTube will notify you when the video is actually posted when it comes out. You don't have to watch it right then, but this part also helps beat the censorship. And also one more thing too, if you guys can, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything, it's free. And also please go ahead and hit the like button, so that way the video will go up the algorithm, this message will get out. And with that right there being said, let's go ahead and get into this. So, you saw Candace Owens at the very beginning of the video in the B-roll footage. Well, this right here is also alluding to the video that comes out at 12 o'clock. However, there are a lot of people who are pointing out the fact that she's recently done a lot of interviews, and I would say a lot is kind of an overstatement. Interviews with Andrew Tate, interviews with Tristan Tate, interviews with more, let's just say more Muslims. And of course, she's also had those hot takes when it comes to the nation of Israel and how it is that she does not like America's support of that nation. Now, I did kind of explain in the previous video why it is that we do actually support said nation and why it is that you do want to have good relations with nations in the Middle East, especially those who could possibly provide a buffer or a wedge against the bad nations or the nations that don't like us in the Middle East or don't care for us, the ones that chant death to America. But the point is this right here. Nobody's support is forever. I mean, hell, you got Fuentes out here going after Trump, and he's kind of urging the groypers out there to do what? Support, well, he's not actually urging them to support anybody. He's, let's just say that it looks like he's becoming more and more and more of a Harris voter every day. I told you guys before, nobody's loyalty is set in stone. People will find any reason in the world to leave. Also, one more thing. I saw this tweet this morning before I got up here from Richard Spencer. If you guys remember who Richard Spencer is, he is the guy that they classified as alt-right, even though it's pretty obvious that the guy has got some serious issues. I never really liked the guy, never have, never trusted him. This guy's history, by the way, also includes a grift off Ron Paul at one point in time, which I think was back in 2008, 2009 timeframe, somewhere right before 2012 election. And of course, he supported Biden in 2020, and now he's supporting Harris in 2024. Yeah, it's funny how it is that they love to tell conservatives that they're white supremacists and label them that, but yet they've got literal pro-white, anti-black, anti-non-white people leading the charge in their party. Like I've always said, they always accuse you of what they are guilty of. However, when the news came out yesterday that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. may be considering endorsing Donald Trump, a lot of people's heads began to spin. Here's a bit from that interview.
Matters the most outside of party lines. I need to focus on a vision that goes beyond November. And if that means that we stay in, and, there's benefits to staying in. If we get over 5% of the vote, we actually establish ourselves as a party. 71% of Americans want a strong third party with a real shot at winning. There's even public funds staying in, forming that new party, but we run the risk of a Kamala Harris and Waltz presidency because we draw votes from Trump, or we draw somehow more votes from Trump, or we walk away right now and join forces with Donald Trump, and we walk away from that and we explain to our base why we're making this decision.
And RFK did see his father, or he believes that the deep state took out his dad. He knows for sure that the deep state took out his uncle. So yeah, if you see another presidential candidate get shot and survive, you're probably going to be willing to say to yourself, man, maybe I shouldn't be doing something that may take away from one of the other candidates. That's probably the thought process going on through this campaign. Trust me, Shanahan speaking for RFK here. Okay, so it seems to me like a decision is being weighed. And of course, this right here is let's just say the stuff in the B-roll footage is from that phone call that Trump had with RFK. I'll link the phone call in the description box. The only reason why I'm not playing it this video and just playing the B-roll footage is because the audio on it is kind of grainy. It's not that great. But of course, this right here was after the assassination attempt on former President Trump. Trump actually reached out to RFK. So you're probably thinking to yourself, it seems to me that the RFK voters will go to Trump. I'm not so sure that's the case. There was actually a bit of a controversy that Republicans, conservatives were having about wondering who RFK's supporters were. And the consensus at this moment in time, I'm not saying it's ironclad, is that initially it was hurting Biden a lot more. And now, of course, it's starting to hurt Trump a lot more. This could be because a lot of progressive voters may have flopped back to Harris because she's running a much, much more progressive style campaign. I really don't know. But then again, though, you do get crazies like Chris Nelson out of Florida, who, by the way, is a great example of a grifter, a great example of somebody's loyalty not being to a party. And of course, some people are probably going to nail me because they're going to think that, sometimes loyalty is a bad thing. You should be open-minded. When in reality, if you actually look at it, a lot of these people aren't open-minded at all. They have their own little grip. Yeah, it's funny how it is that people will say that you're closed-minded, yet they themselves have, let's just say that they have more beliefs that fit in line with a person who's not open-minded at all. But that's another conversation altogether. Like I've always said, these people love to accuse you of what they are already guilty of. That right there is just the way the world works. And you're probably wondering what happens to these movements after the 2024 election cycle. Well, one person that also ended up reporting this that had some better information on this topic, according to his own sources, was Alex Jones, and he went to Twitter shortly afterwards to give a little bit more detail on the situation.
Sheehan did a podcast this morning and said that they were strongly considering joining the Trump campaign so that the globalists, so that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz do not get in there. I shot a report about it a few hours ago, and then I started reaching out to some of my contacts, and I was able to confirm about an hour ago that RFK Jr. is going to be endorsing President Trump this Friday in Los Angeles. And I was given other details, but I'm not going to give those out about how they're going to do it at this point. This is from inside the RFK Jr. campaign from a very, very trusted source. And it turns out that when I started reaching out to people, they reached out to some of their contacts, and then I was called back from someone inside of their operation who'd already seen the X post we did about 2 hours ago at Real Alex Jones, where I surmise the fact that RFK Jr. saw his father murdered when he was the Attorney General, saw his uncle, the president, murdered, and that he saw them attempt to kill Trump, and that he knows that the same Secret Service that's been trying to get him killed has not given him any Secret Service protection, and that I believe that was the straw that broke the camel's back.
Lack of Secret Service protection, the fact that they've gone out of their way to stop him from getting on the ballot anywhere. Yeah, I could definitely see people voting for Trump this election cycle who were on their way to vote for RFK because of what the hell was just said, what the hell was just mentioned. But there's also something else, too, that needs to be said. You see, guys, you've been seeing some video of these protests, these riots, and, of course, these things that are going on in Chicago, the DNC. What I want to tell you is this here. Back in 2016, it was Rush Limbaugh. He theorized that a good amount of Bernie Sanders supporters would go and vote for Donald Trump out of spite for the DNC. A lot of those Bernie bros actually stayed with the Trump team and stayed with Trump after the election. Some of them, of course, left, and some of them, of course, also stayed out of the election in 2020, and some of them stayed out of the election in 2016. Not that many, but of course, I'm pretty sure you guys know where I'm at. Some of these people will vote for the other side out of spite, which is where we're going to get to when we talk about Cornel West and Jill Stein and all these other candidates and what will probably happen as a result going forward. Because as you guys saw with Candace Owens, she does have a history of being, let's just say, not Candace Owens, but actually red pill black, somebody on the left. But we'll get back to her here in a second because I do think in some way her and Fuentes do connect. So make sure you guys stick around. We're almost there. The thing about someone like, say, Cornel West, on the other hand, is that he is ideologically pure to the far left. I've done some research on West. I've seen a lot of his interviews, and of course, this guy sounds like an absolute loon. But when he gets on the stage and he's got Jill Stein next to him, and then he's got these other candidates who are running more locally because they still get on the ballot for president in certain states, it makes you wonder if the Free Palestine crowd, the Free Palestine movement, or the Anti-Israel movement, whichever one you may want to choose to call it, it makes you wonder exactly how big it is nationwide. Now, let me just go ahead and say this. Our elections, once again, are not decided by the popular vote. They are decided by the Electoral College. The vast majority of the voters that Kamala Harris needs to get over, because like I said before, you can't trust the polls because you can be up by 4 or 5 nationally and still lose the election in the Electoral College and still win the popular vote. Some people love to complain about that. We may do a video on the Electoral College and why it is correct. As a matter of fact, I would go a step further and create a state Electoral College. But still, though, the point is this right here. She needs these voters to get by. Most of these people who are protesting in Chicago are coming from universities in Pennsylvania. They're coming from universities in Ohio, which Trump is going to win anyways. Indiana, Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, even a few people from Iowa State University. Also, the universities in Illinois. These right here are voters that she needs to get over. Now, while she'll probably still win Minnesota and still more than likely win the state of Illinois, it's pretty obvious if you look at the Democrat makeup there, she still has to have these voters to get over in what are going to be very, very close election results in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Possibly even other states as well, because some blue states may surprise you on election night. One state is Virginia, which Trump is actually polling better in. But still, though, the point is this right here. These right here are votes that are not going to show up for Harris, which also makes you wonder why it is that these people have not formed a coalition. Why have these people not settled on a candidate? Why have these people not settled on Jill Stein or Cornel West? Now, you could see that. You could see West urge his supporters to vote for Stein because Cornel West is having a hard time getting on the ballot in some of these states. And I think the reason why it is they're keeping him off the ballot is because, well, they know that he'll more than likely take votes away from Harris. The truth be told is this here. RFK takes votes away from both Harris and Trump. Cornel West, Jill Stein, they take more votes away from Kamala Harris because, let's just go ahead and say it out loud. In 2020, the reason why it was the Democrats were able to get over, of course, can't go too much in the details of, But the truth be told about that election cycle is that it took everything in the world to take down Trump. I mean, it was 81 million votes to 74. That's, I would say that is about 2/3 of the U.S. voting population, maybe even more. Then again, you've also got people on the right, people like, say, Jason Whitlock, who they didn't vote in 2020, and now they claim they're voting this time around for Trump. Like I said, each election cycle brings brand new voters, and obviously they shed voters. I mean, at one point in time, even Scott Presler, who's registering a lot of Republican voters, was trying to lead initiatives to get Cornel West on the ballot in the state of North Carolina. Even though, me being a North Carolinian, I can tell you right now that regardless of what the polls say, this state right here will go to Trump by about 5 or 6 points. I'm just telling you right now, the enthusiasm is not there for Harris, and the enthusiasm is with Trump. And the thing about North Carolina is that we actually went in and looked at the voter data back in 2008 and come to find out there was a lot of crazy stuff going on that got Obama over. 2012 was pretty safe for Romney. 2016 was pretty safe for Trump. 2020 was the Democrats' best effort in a state that's getting redder and redder and redder, and the most they could come within was 1 point against Trump in 2020. Leaves a problem for a third-party candidate. You see, part of the reason why I played a little bit extra from Nicole Shanahan's clip is because they do need 5% to actually become an actual party, which makes you wonder why it is they just didn't join the Libertarians, which is also another thing that people will have to wonder about at a later date, because there are people out there who believe that Libertarians and communists or socialists or whatever could in fact forge an alliance, which is exactly where we're going to go ahead and conclude this video at, which is also going to be a 2-part conclusion and of course 2 separate edited clips. So bear with me. The Fuentes Groyper types, they will fall lockstep in line with someone like Candace if she reaches out to them. You know, a lot of people say these people may not like each other, maybe these people are good friends, but you never know in the world of politics. Anything could happen. Now, how strong of a vote that is, I really and truly don't know. But you could see these people try to align with the pro-free Palestine crowd to create their own party. Of course, to go on top of this, one demographic that is growing heavily in the country right now is the Muslim demographic. Now, I want to talk about demographics very, very quickly. So just bear with me. Right now in this country, you have about 58, 59% white. Now, Republicans are going to have to expand their base if they want to have a future going forward, which is why it is they're getting a lot of black males. Roughly 12 to 13% of the black vote itself is very, very important to them going forward. However, what's really more important, though, is the fact that Republicans are starting to break the 40% line with Hispanics. The more and more woke this Democratic Party gets, because I'm pretty sure it's going to remain woke after this election because the wokes actually have control of that party, or they're at least the piece that's actually keeping them down or keeping them in place. Hispanics are going to get turned off by this. And the more and more globalistic the Democratic Party becomes, or the Unity Party becomes, the more and more likely it is that they are going to stay with the Republican Party or begin to drift back over. You could see that total as high as 45 to 50% someday, leaving Democrats with only about 50% Hispanics and at best maybe 80% of black voters. But of course, if you guys remember the previous videos that I did, if you guys remember Ice Cube, his little bit or what he said.
But I'm saying that to say this: be skeptical of anybody telling you to vote and not telling you to ask for anything, or to tell you to just vote and not to get anything for your vote.
Obviously, these people are not getting anything in exchange for their vote. And there was also this bit with Dom Lemon, which we're going to talk a little bit about tomorrow. The thing is this right here. It seems to me that the left is what is fracturing, but would elements of the left, would they join certain elements of the right to create a third party? And if they did so, would it be successful? Well, this right here is where I get back to Candace Owens. The minute that Candace Owens' rant from this past weekend on Twitter went viral, the minute she's talking about Israel and her hot takes, and it just sounded like mostly gobbledygook. You saw that in the first video. I didn't really give much credence to her itself. I talked more about the criticisms that were laid at her, and me, of course, being the pro-Israel person, you probably would think that I would go crazy and I would absolutely flip out and go insane at her take. But the truth be told is rare. If you actually listen to her rant, it doesn't sound any different than what your crazy uncle would say at a kegger. It's not exactly any different than what the hell he would say at a family reunion. I mean, to me, I just listened to it. I just bust out laughing. Oh, God, this is crazy. This is insane, man. She's flipped out. She knows this crap ain't true. All kinds of crap. This is what you would normally say, okay? Just say this is the type of shit that you would say at a party, a drunk would say. So therefore, it's not really meant to be taken serious. However, the thing about Candace Owens, and I pointed this out, and I like Candace, but Candace does have a history of being on the left when she was red pill black. She has a history of doxing. I mean, the truth be told is this right here. You can never really and truly count on who's loyal and who's not. You can like somebody. You can say, okay, yeah, they're being loyal for right now. They're voting this way here. But the point is this right here. In politics, there's no such thing as loyalty. So I'm just here to tell you guys right now that it could happen. You never know. You could see the Candace Owens and Groyper types eventually get up with the Cornel West types, and they may even create a third party. However, would it last? None. If anything, it would probably fall apart shortly after it was formed. You'd have people leaving, people getting upset because that phrase, you're not loyal, you're not ideologically pure, you're too right-wing, you're too left-wing, that type of stuff will probably happen. But it is something to ponder because it could turn into a unified movement. Now, where that movement would go, I don't think it would go very far, but if anything, it's probably the movement that I've always said would start the chaos in the streets if a civil war was to occur. Because I've always said that the Beanie guy, while it is that he mentions civil war and civil strife, he does this right here with no knowledge of how the actual nation itself is built. The truth be told is that if something was to occur in this country, it would happen in America's bluest cities. And it would be blue on blue. The only slice of red in there would be the Owens-Fuentes types, which, of course, as you guys can now see, they're starting to turn blue, or they will probably turn blue after Trump gets in office, assuming that he wins. So, yeah, it is definitely something to ponder and something that could happen. But if it did happen, it more than likely would never last. With that right there being said, guys, make sure you guys please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sound off in the comment section. I want to get you guys' thoughts on this, and I'll see you guys later.